he makes insinuations a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's hard not to say that Tim Waltz has not misspoke. I mean, because there's lots of videos out there where he makes an insinuation. Yes, the dude served. Yes, he was in Italy in support of enduring freedom, but sometimes he makes it sound
Yeah.
to civilians like I was there in the shit, and that's going to upset a lot of veterans. All the veterans that served in Afghanistan don't like to hear somebody say I was in Afghanistan
Yeah.
or Operation Enduring Freedom when you weren't.
Battle Line podcast. We have a very special guest, Anthony Anderson. You might not know the name, but you probably know at Stolen Valor 1 on X. And if you are lying about your service, this is the man who's going to call you out. And also joining us is Dave Park from the Team
Yep.
House.
Good guy, fellow Ranger. Love talking to Dave. And I don't know, it's just that Bat Boy connection. We just, whenever Dave's on or we talk, it just always flows right. And I'm going to convince Ian to bring Dave on continuously, but it
But
probably
don't
won't
steal him
happen.
from the Team
But
House.
yeah,
We,
but
we
we,
like
we,
the
we
Team
don't,
House,
we don't want to
who
steal it
has
from the team.
150,000
Exactly.
subscribers or
So
something compared to our
why would we want to steal
six.
him? We want him to go on the Team House and continue to promote Battle Line. But I'm in all jest. No, Dave is awesome, and I love having him on. And it really does. I just always feel comfortable with Dave, and you of course do. And it just whenever we're together, it works. So yeah, I love having Dave on. Always love
Yeah.
having Dave on.
Absolutely. You guys are going to like this episode, but before we get into it, I have to tell you the weather has been really nice. It's hot because it's August, and because it's hot, I'm going for runs, but you do need that
Yep.
hydration, and that's why after my run, I pretty much reward myself with a hydrate or die packet. I love those. And if you're looking for something loaded with sugar, that's not what you're going to get. This is
Yeah.
coconut water. This is Himalayan pink salts. And I know I've been talking about hydrate or die more than anything, but that's because that's the supplement I've been using most lately. In this warm weather, it's the best.
Dude,
Love hydrate or die.
and if you can, well, guys, I'm a coffee drinker. So before I go work out, I put the MCT oil, 2 scoops of it. That's a great pre-workout. Then when I come back, I'll do another cup of coffee and I'll throw the collagen in there for recovery. So I've been continually using that, even with my hip being that hip replacement, and it is helping. It does help recover, and it does help with the collagen that we need that we're not really getting in a diet all the time. So it's still Bubs makes the best supplements out there by far.
Yeah, I echo all of that. And of course, if you don't know, which if you're a longtime listener, you do know that every purchase helps to support the Glenn
Yeah.
Doherty Memorial Foundation, who is doing great things for the families of veterans. So you're not only getting great products, you're supporting a great cause. Go to bubsnaturals.com, use the promo code BattleLine, and you'll get 20% off your first purchase. That's bubsnaturals.com. Use the promo code BattleLine.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
The Switch is on. Battle Line podcast, joined for the first time by Anthony Anderson, truly a guy that we're all a fan of, and that's why our friend Dave Park is also joining the podcast from the Team House. I know you guys go way back, but for those who don't know Anthony, you probably do know him from Twitter or X, because he's the founder of Guardian of Valor, medically retired Army veteran with 16 years of service, including a tour of duty in Afghanistan, among other countries. Knowing Anthony, that is all 100% accurate, and there's definitely no stolen valor in there. The funny thing, actually, I will say, and I want to get into like your early background, joining the Army and all that, but So for those who don't know, I'm sure a lot of the listeners and viewers are like, "Oh, it's obvious why you're having Anthony on this week." But the irony is,
Yeah.
we contacted you like a month ago when the only thing going on was like the Steve Slayton thing, who's like
Right.
a local race in Arizona. And then all of a sudden, as you kind of said to me, the shit hits the fan, and people who never even heard the topic of stolen valor are talking about this, and they're keeping you very busy.
Yeah, man, I've been extremely busy. I've got a wife that's highly upset that I'm spending more time virtually than I am with her. But yeah, man, it's been crazy. With both vice presidents, going at each other, stolen valor being thrown around. I mean, I've had this happen before. The word stolen valor is thrown around for just about any and every fucking thing, man. And that's one thing I don't like is veterans attacking each other for stolen valor whenever they disagree politically. It just diminishes what stolen valor actually is, and a lot of people don't understand what it is. They think stolen valor is any and everything, and it's not. I mean,
No, you're right. And the way we're going, you're talking about virtually, your wife spending more wife virtually than with your wife. I think we're going that route anyway. So there's going to be more virtual out there the way our country's going, man. So
right.
so holy shit. But what since you put that out there though, then give us the definition, bro. What and you are the subject matter expert in it. You started this. You've been fighting this good fight for years. But yeah, what is stolen valor? So the novice, the civilian knows what that is.
Well, stolen valor, it's kind of been redefined over the years as far as the definition of it. Years ago, back in 2005, there was an original Stolen Valor Act. It was actually written by a friend of mine, Doug Sterner. He and I go way back. He's actually a military historian for military times. He spends a lot of his time now recording actual valor. He's the one that runs their Hall of Honor, where you can go there and look up, Medal of Honor recipients, blah, blah, blah. Him and his wife wrote the original Stolen Valor Act. Now, the original Stolen Valor Act was very wide, okay? And the problem with that was, me and Chris were sitting in a bar, and Chris, you're telling me your stories of Benghazi, and I say, oh yeah, Chris, man, I was in the Black Hawk Down incident, man, blah blah blah. Well, guess what? Under that law, I could have been prosecuted for just bullshitting with you in the bar and telling fish stories. So there was a guy out in California that claimed to have the Medal of Honor, and he used that claim to join the VFW and some other things. Well, he took this all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, look, this law is too wide. It infringes on the First Amendment, and I 100% agreed with that. It did infringe on the First Amendment. So they went back to the drawing board and they said, okay, let's kind of narrow this down a little bit. So what they did is in 2013 they wrote a new law, and they said, okay, if you go out there and you claim these awards, and I can't remember the exact number, but it's basically your Valor Awards, your CIBs, your Medal of Honors, your CABs. If you claim awards like that and you gain something of tangible benefit, then you can be prosecuted under the Federal Act. And with that being so narrow, you started having more of what a lot of veterans consider stolen valor. A veteran considers stolen valor walk around in uniform, different things like that. So the states got involved. I've been involved in several states to help them pass their own stolen valor laws. Like in Florida, Florida has one of the toughest stolen valor laws on the books. Their law basically makes it a level 3 felony if you even wear the uniform and you claim something and you get a tangible benefit and you claim, hey, I'm a veteran, and you get anything of tangible benefit, that's a level 3 felony in Florida.
Wow.
So basically that's the, if you go to a veteran, say all of us will. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah,
you a veteran?
It's fun. I don't want to get accused of stolen valor on this podcast. Yeah, what's fun? There's been so many times on this show too where people say to me and Chris, like, "Thanks for all that you guys do." It's like, do I have to correct them every time? I'll get accused of stolen valor, but no, the three of you, I've done nothing but host a podcast.
Okay, well, I mean, same difference. a veteran's definition of stolen valor can be very broad.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they use that, as you can see lately on X. They'll attack anybody for stolen valor. Oh, you don't believe in my political, what I believe, my opinion. You're stolen valor. You're not really a veteran. Dude, we all know we served in the military. The military is a vast array of different people with different opinions from all different sides of the aisles, all different religions, all different races. We're not going to all think the same.
Not a monolith. Yeah, it's so true in the years of doing this, man. I mean, like, we've had Chris Dyko's son, very left wing. We've had,
and he was my Ranger Squad teammate too. He was 75th Ranger Regiment. He's left as shit. I love him to death. But
that's a lot of guys. Yeah, it's not a monolith.
And talking about just getting into that, and I'm going to talk about that, is that we get this DEI in the military now, and I'm going off somewhere else. We'll come back. There's always been diversity in the military, including there's never not been. I mean, look at my basic training picture from 1995. You'll see Puerto Ricans, you'll see Dominicans, you'll see African Americans, you'll see rednecks from North Georgia. You're going to see Mexicans. It's what gets me and destroys what the military is. And I think stolen valor and the way that we use it against each other is also still destroying what we learned in the military, what we were in the 90s, which it was a big melting pot. It always was. And now it's some reason taking a life of its own with this DEI. And then, like you said, the stolen valor, where now people are just claiming stolen valor because we're calling each other out on it because they don't like somebody else's opinion. That's why I back you on that. That's why I'm like, fuck them, dude. Fuck those sons of bitches.
Right.
Yeah. Some of the stuff you've seen that I've even seen covered, and we can get it, like, someone wears a hat or something, like there, that a friend gave them who served in some unit. Like some of that is ridiculous. It's like,
that's bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, because I was even thinking about that. I go to air shows every year. You go to an air show, the Marine recruiters are there, and you do something like, I think 10 or 15 pull-ups. They give you that shirt, the Marine shirt that on the back says pain is weakness, leaving the body, badass shirt. If I get 10 pull-ups and I'm wearing that, and someone asks, are you a Marine? I'm told, no, I'm not a Marine. But I mean, stuff like that is a bit ridiculous. And then it's like the word gets way overused.
It does. It does. And it really, to me, it devalues what stolen valor really is. I mean, take Steve Slayton, for example. He's a prime example of what stolen valor is. I mean, the dude literally lied about being in Vietnam. Not only did he not lie about being in Vietnam, he lied about being the pilot of a Cobra helicopter that was actually shot down in Vietnam and claimed the lives of those two pilots. That is stolen valor. I mean, he stole the honor, of those two guys that gave their lives for this country. I mean, and then just continued with the lie and was trying to get elected to office, by using, and that's stolen valor.
Now, is that? Because there really are two definitions of stolen valor, right? Anthony? There's the legal definition that somebody can be prosecuted, whether state or federally. But then there's a more generic stolen valor that maybe won't send somebody to jail, but somebody is definitely lying either about their service or facets of their service.
Right.
And is that, we're talking about morality now. Yes, maybe not legal precedence, but there is a morality issue here, which I think is where we're at probably with Tim Walz, which is there's nothing legally did wrong, but was there ethically and morally? Did he? Yeah. And because he ran with it until he was called out and there was and his command came out. That's huge. When your command comes out or your peers come out and say that was big. But before we get into that, because that was where we went down and because I don't even know what happened to you, dude. You said you were getting blasted. It's like, what the hell's happened? We'll get into that. But before we do, I want to get in your service, because a lot of people out there, they see, and I've seen some of it on X, and when I was on Twitter before I got kicked off and then had to come back on X, I saw people attack you because you're like, I've never seen what he looks like. No, who the hell knows who this guy is? So why don't we put the record straight and, hey, tell us your back, so everybody's got it out there. Everybody knows your background and that you are legitimately the subject matter expert in this, and you've got the pedigree to prove that. So I'd just like to hear your military service, man.
Yeah. I joined in 2003, right after 9/11. Served about 16 years altogether. Went to Afghanistan in 2009 during the surge. And served a little over 12 months in Afghanistan. Came home. I was having some issues as far as, PTSD.
sure.
But back in that time, man, PTSD, you didn't, it wasn't something that you wanted, and especially in combat arms, man, is a big no-no. You'd be considered a pussy. So I started having issues. I didn't realize it. My family realized it. My command realized
Yep.
it. So my command finally came to me one day, my lieutenant colonel, and he said, "Look, man," he said, "I'm command directing you to go get help." And I'm like, "No, sir, I'm not. I don't need help." He said, "You
No,
need
no.
help."
Yeah.
He said, "I'm carrying your ass to myself to get help." And dude, at the time, I hated him. I hated him with a passion. He actually sat down, me and it, dude. I was an E6, literally about to fight a lieutenant colonel. We were sitting in the office together, and he looked at me and he said, "I'm coming to your house." He said, "I'm collecting all your firearms." I looked at him straight in his face. I said, "No, sir, you're not."
Yeah.
I said, "Those are my firearms. It's my Second Amendment right." I said, "You are not coming to my house and taking my firearms." He got so mad, man. He threw his fucking hat down on the table. He walked out. My wife was actually out in the waiting room. She told my wife, he said, "If I didn't love that man so much, I would literally beat his ass right now." Well, eventually, man, I did go get help. They found out that I had a traumatic brain injury. I had some injuries. I ended up having to do a couple of surgeries for that.
Was that from any specific incident overseas?
Just several incidents, man. Mortars hitting close to us on the base. Just things like that I didn't think bothered me. I had a bloody nose from one. It didn't, nothing that I at the time thought anything of. Minor
course.
headache, whatever. No big deal. Drive on. We were real lucky in Afghanistan. The only injury we had was my team leader. He actually got hit by a grenade. And he took some shrapnel to his arms and his legs. We were real lucky. There was a lot of other units that were with us that lost a lot of guys.
Sure.
But that was basically our only injury was him getting hit by a grenade on one of our missions. But so in 2016, they medically discharged me for my injuries. And just to back up a little bit, when I got back from Afghanistan, that's when Facebook pages kind of really became a thing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the infantry guys were like, "Hey man, let's build us a spot where we can all come together and shoot the shit." We're infantry guys fresh out of Afghanistan, and we all know how raw dog infantry guys can be. And so we couldn't openly talk like we wanted to. So we built a page called US Infantry. We basically started bullshitting with this page. Some guy comes to me and says, "Hey man, I got this guy down here in Florida that's claiming he was in Afghanistan and he was an IED and he's got plates in his face and 214, and on this 14 in block 18 it says he had 101 confirmed kills." I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Nobody puts fucking confirmed kills on a 214." And so I reached out to this guy. I'm like, "Hey dude, what unit you serve with, whatever." He's like, "Oh, I'll send you my 214." So he sends me his 214, man. And at that time, I really didn't know what Stolen Valor was. I looked at this 214, man. I was like, red flags everywhere. And so I kind of started researching. That's how I found Doug Sterner. And he was one of the original guys that started looking into Stolen Valor. I sent it to him.
I just ask, was this pre Don Shipley? Because that was my introduction to Stolen Valor.
Don Shipley, I want to say me and him started out around, he may have started a little bit before me. Because when I met Doug Sterner, him and John Shipley and Mary Shantag, who runs POW Network, POW Network actually started way before anybody else. Her and Brigadier General Burkett. Brigadier General Burkett actually coined the term Stolen Valor.
Gotcha. And also Don Shipley, from what I remember, it was pretty much just SEALs.
Yeah, he does just SEALs.
And what he did was because what he did was almost like To Catch a Predator, but with Stolen Valor of SEALs. I like when I first started working with Sopra, that's when I came across that guy. It was cool watching all those videos he would do where, he would just confront these guys in person. "Oh, so I heard you did this," and I loved all that. But anyway, keep going.
But yeah, anyway, so I was in 11 Bravo, just to in infantry. But as I said, when I came home, and I started looking into it, I was like, Stolen Valor, what the hell is this? And so Doug Sterner Mary Sterner, Mary Shantag and her husband Chuck. Chuck was a former POW from the Vietnam War. Him and his wife spent the last years of his life, he's passed away now, looking into fake POWs from Vietnam. So him, Doug Sterner, and Don Shipley, as a matter of fact, they all took me under their wing, man, and they showed me. They said, "This is what Stolen Valor is. If you want to help us, this is how you do it. This is how this is how you get people's back." And so basically, man, for the first couple of years, they took me under their wing and just basically showed me the ropes, and I took it off from there. I still work with all of them. I still work with Doug Sterner. I still work with Mary. Me and her talk probably weekly now. Don Shipley, I have his cell phone number. If I need somebody, if somebody's a SEAL, I'll just pick up and say, "Hey, Don, this guy's a SEAL." He said, "No, he's not a fucking SEAL. Give me his number. I'll call him." That kind of thing. And so the thing with Facebook, go back to Facebook, is how Guardian of Valor got started. At the time, Facebook didn't like you to post people's pictures without their permission. So if I would post a story, a case on Facebook, they would take it. And you know what? I'll build a website. I'll post my cases to the website and link them back to Facebook. And that's how Guardian of Valor was born. My first big case that I ever had was American Idol dude back in 2010, 11 timeframe. He went on there and told the judges that he had been blown up in Afghanistan, and that's why he stuttered. And the only time he didn't stutter was when he played his guitar and sang, and he actually used that, and judges actually passed him on to the next round.
I didn't know that.
Well, the night after that aired, I started getting email after email from people that served with this guy. He's like, "Dude, this guy was never hit by an IED. This is all bullshit." And so I looked into it. He actually reached out to me and said, "Yeah, dude, I lied. Period. I lied." So I posted that story. And then I don't know if you guys are familiar with Holly McKay. She's a very, very good reporter.
Oh, Holly?
She's been on the show.
Yeah.
Holly's a very good friend. Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah.
Well, Holly, when I first met Holly, she was just getting started, man. She was the entertainment reporter.
Yeah.
Fox News.
That's how I got to know her. She's tremendous, man.
Oh, she's great. She's a great lady.
Saw her downrange quite a few times too.
Oh,
man. Yeah.
So she started off as entertainment producer for Fox News. She reached out to me. She said, "Hey, I'd like to run your story." And so she posted our story. And from that point on, man, it was just like we went viral. Every time a case would come up on our website, national news media would pick it up. I think we've had probably 5 cases that have been federally prosecuted based on what we've done, our cases. The FBI has used our casework. We've had one out in Nevada. She actually got 20 years, I think, based off of our casework.
Wow. What did she do? Now I have to know. 20 years. Yeah.
Okay.
That's gotta be serious.
Yeah. Well, man, that was one of the biggest stories I looked into. She was actually pretending to be a man originally. And the way she got busted was somebody sent me a video. They were in the airport and they saw this Army lieutenant sitting in the area waiting to get on the airplane, and their patches were all out of place. And so this guy walked up with his phone. He's like, "Hey, LT, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm an LT, I'm EOD, whatever." You've probably seen the video. It's up on my Stolen Valor YouTube. And so he sends me this video. I start looking into it. And in that video, she looked like a man. I mean, she talked like a man. She presented herself as a man. She presented herself as a lieutenant in the U.S. Army. After I started looking into her, come to find out she was a woman. She was using a fake name. And after she knew she was onto us, she actually started sending us emails with this fake name, Michael Cipriani or something like that, claiming that she was, that she knew Kelsey Hoover, which was her real name, and that she was actually in the Army, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, I did record search, and nobody ever by that name served. Well, she skipped out and went to Nevada. While she was in Nevada, she continued. She actually went to the DMV and presented a fake DD-214 to get Purple Heart's license plates. On top of that, she went to the local schoolhouse and got a job using veterans preference. And so I called the school and I talked to the resource officer, and the lady was like, "Yeah, I know that person. They come, she's a substitute teacher, or he's a substitute teacher. And he comes to work every day in a wheelchair." A wheelchair? She's like, she said, "Yeah, he said he got shot in the back in Afghanistan, and and has to use a wheelchair. He's paralyzed. I was like, dude, number one, it's a woman. I said, number two, she was never in Afghanistan. I said, and and they're like, no way, man. I've known this person for months now. And so that kind of started it. And and we got the local Nevada DA involved. They ended up doing their own investigation, and so they prosecuted her using what we had found, also our video. And in the end, I mean, you can see it online. The judge slammed her. He said, "Look," he said, "the worst thing in the world you can do is steal valor from real veterans." He said, "I'm throwing the book at you." He said, 20 years. So she got 20 years mandatory 7 served before she's eligible for parole.
Oh,
wow. They got her for stolen valor. They got her for fraud. They got her for burglary, which was weird. They got her for burglary because she walked into the DMV with a fake DD-214 to acquire the Purple Heart license plates. So they basically said she burglarized the DMV,
wow.
which was wild to me.
That's crazy. And Dave, you step in anytime, brother. You got stuff, because
Oh,
I feel like we're stepping on.
No, you're not. I mean, look, Anthony is the expert in all of this, and generally I just ride his coattails when I see him post something and like and blast it out, and make jokes. Like, it's interesting to me because you do have, like, you have, and Anthony, I'd ask you, because you've been doing all this research. Like, often I think civilians think of stolen valor strictly in the sense of civilians who have never served, who are pretending to be something. And there are lots of those people out there.
Right.
But I think the more egregious, I can't say crime because it's not a crime, but like the more egregious offense is a veteran who misrepresents their service, because they should know, like, be proud of your service. It doesn't matter what you did in the service. Be proud of it.
Right. I agree. And there's been several cases. I've actually got one up on my website now. My website's kind of funky right now. I've been trying to rebuild it myself because it just came back online. Grunt Style actually all that stuff when I retired for a year, 2 years, and they archived it for me. So I'm trying to rebuild a lot of my old cases. But there was a command sergeant major that was brought up on charges while in the military because he was wearing badges that he hadn't earned. I think it was a Silver Star and some other things. And they prosecuted him under the UCMJ for stolen valor.
Wow.
So yeah, I believe as a veteran, man, I mean, the rules and regulations, what you're authorized and what you're not, I mean, which brings us to the current situation, with the vice president candidates, both of them served honorably. I can't knock them for that. You're going to have opinions on both sides. Soldiers are going to talk. We all know that. Not every soldier is going to like their first line leader. Not every soldier is going to like their first sergeant, whatever. But I can't go off opinions of soldiers. I have to go off what I see, facts.
And by the way, this is why sorry to step in here. This is why I respect what you do in your accounts so much, because you're one of the few resources out there that is truly like as neutral as it gets, man. A Republican steals valor, you're going to report on it. A Democrat steals valor, you're going to, and if someone just doesn't like this guy, you're going to say that has nothing to do with my opinion. We'll get into Tim Walz, but like Tim Walz leaving before he was supposed to be deployed, you're like, hey, maybe I don't agree with it, but it's not stolen valor. I'm not going to touch this. I respect that, man, because it's very hard to find news sources nowadays that don't add their personal bias to everything.
So is that what you were getting? Again, I was trying to follow, like, well, on X, like, where you were getting shit from, like, because you did the right thing. I mean, you called it out. You got it right.
He hacks people's DD-214. Didn't?
No, I was not saying. Is that what it was?
You read some of the comments?
I mean, that's what I was like, what the fuck?
It's a HIPAA violation to get that stuff.
Oh, bad, my bad, dude. But was that it? Was that? I mean, seriously though, tell me the back, because I want to know the backstory, because I'm still lost aside from the HIPAA violation that Ranger Day stuff. But yeah, brother, because you got it right. I was like, man, what are you Republican? What are you yelling at him for? He fucking just got it right. It's like,
Yeah. Well, the thing is, man, is dude, we all know politics is on fire right now. I mean,
of course.
Both sides are just at each other's throats. So they want to find anything and everything they can to bring the other person down, And so if I post something that is, for Tim Walz, all the Democrats are on my side and giving me praise. But if I post something that says, hey, well, Tim Walz did do this, they're like, oh no, you're a fucking maggot, and then if I post something else that says, well, no, this is true, then all of a sudden I'm getting paid. I'm a paid dim shield, I mean, I'm getting paid from the Democrats and George Soros and everybody else. It's the thread that I built on Tim Walz was a progressive thing. I mean, as I got more information, I would add it.
That's what I saw. And that was right. You were doing the investigation. You're just the facts. I saw that.
Exactly. And so when I found out that he was reduced, he wasn't demoted, he was reduced from command sergeant major to master sergeant because he did not complete he didn't complete the PME. I mean, I was an acting platoon sergeant in Afghanistan for 30 days, but I'm not going to go around and say, hey, I'm platoon sergeant, I'm an E7.
You made E7, yeah, exactly. You made E6P, and that's good. I mean, you're right, exactly. I got you. Yeah.
So do I think it's stolen valor? No. Do I think he's embellishing by going around saying he's a retired command sergeant major? Absolutely. Because there's a lot of command sergeant majors out there that have a problem with this, rightfully so. I mean, they went through the academy. The command sergeant major academy is not an easy thing to go through.
Fucking joke.
But then what about, well, because I want to ask, is it stolen valor then the speech that they got on tape where he said, these are weapons of war that I carried in war, which he wasn't in war? Is that stolen valor?
See,
are we talking semantics? Again, we're talking morality and integrity here. So it's going to be subject to interpretation based off. And you and I may disagree, but we know he was fucking wrong. I might call it stolen valor. You may call it not. But what I get is like, that's just fucking semantics, man.
Yeah,
it's still fucking wrong.
It's wrong. He knew what he was saying. He was trying to word it to push an agenda. Basically.
Like, I know what this weapon does because I carry it.
Yeah.
And we see this, and it's funny, because when somebody of your political party does it, right? When we see this in the media, if it's somebody in your political party, they misspoke. If it's somebody the opposite political party, they lie. Right.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like when Tom Cotton said he was a Ranger in combat. It's like is he wrong? I guess not, but he knows what he's saying, and he knows what people think, and he knows what the reality of that is.
Right, because he has a Ranger tab, but he was never in Ranger Battalion.
Right.
I mean,
and that's why the egregiousness, I agree with you, on veterans is more, because we know what we're saying when we want to embellish it just a little bit.
Right.
We know, and I'm saying because I'm just saying because I'm a lump us all together. Have I done it? No, I haven't. I've always been a contractor. Even the commercial with that sunglasses, the first one that came out said Special Forces, and I even hit the TV. I was like, motherfuckers, I am not a Green Beret.
Oh, so that it aired like that?
And the first one they did, I saw the TV.
Holy
it
shit.
was ESPN, and I was like, holy shit, I am gonna get fucking hammered.
Yeah, and it's because civilians always get that stuff wrong. I'll tell you real quick, Dave, it was kind of funny.
They did fix it. They did fix it. I just want to let you know, because I called and said, fucking fix this now, or I'm going to get hammered, and they fixed it. But
it is, civilians do always lump everything together, because I was just thinking, actually, to your colleague, Dave, Jack Murphy, I remember, not to call them out, I love the Borellis, but when the Borellis were guest hosting for Andrew Wilkow, they had, at the time when they were together with SOCREP, they had on Jack Murphy and Brandon Webb, and they said, we're in studio with Jack Murphy and Brandon Webb, and they're Navy SEALs. And Jack had to be like, I'm not a Navy SEAL. But, civilians just oftentimes get that shit wrong.
Well, that's way worse, though. Come on, Dave. That is way worse. Calling a Ranger a SEAL.
Well, yeah, but it is tough when you're dealing with third parties.
Yeah.
And because there are times when, like, if everybody that writes about you writes that you are a combat veteran, or writes something, then obviously they've been given a reason to think that. But like for instance, you guys said I was retired, I think on something, and I'm not retired. Other people have called me a SEAL because I was a Navy diver, and I've had to like correct them. And for them, they're like, well, what's the difference? Right. And it's like, trust me, there's a difference. And then I was going to say something really mean, but I'm not.
No, come on, do it. Come on, come on, say it.
And then I don't know if you get this, Chris, but the term combat veteran is a very big like differentiator too, because I'm a veteran and I've been in combat, but I will not call myself a combat veteran. And when other people post something about me saying I'm a combat veteran because I was not in the military when I was in combat, I'm like, oh, like I know. And I've had friends who are combat veterans go, dude, that's like, don't worry about that. And it's like, no, it's a distinguishing factor that comes down to the words you use, and words matter.
And that's I'm with you, and I get the same from guys. Same thing. I think the reason, buddy, that maybe we don't get caught because we pointed out, like, guys, you know who I was. I was a contractor, man. Yeah, I was a Ranger Battalion. Yeah, I was in some combat. I saw, but because we call ourselves on it, and I want to say we get a pass, but maybe we do get a pass. But it's because we're willing to say, you know what, we'll walk that back. We got no issue not putting ourselves in that category.
Yeah.
But it also, and I'll be honest, Anthony, for me, sometimes I just get tired of correcting people. Sometimes I'll get that too. I'm medically retired. I was medically retired. Well, he's a retired, like, Jesus, I'm so tired of correcting people.
Right.
And sometimes like, well, I'll just deal with the consequences later. So my question, and Dave's got a good point there, is that, for us, we can't control the narrative with it. We try to, but then it becomes it's just like, I'm just wasting time here. I don't want to deal with this anymore. When do you say, okay, this guy, I know he's not trying to run with it. It's just the nature of the beast, being in the public figure world, being on social media, being a veteran that maybe has been in something other than the military where people know him, or, maybe he's portrayed in a movie. And when do you step in and say, I'm not going to track this down because I know this motherfucker, and he's not doing stolen valor, when essentially we're falling in that same category? And I'm not calling me or Dave out, because I know Dave was the last one that's going to embellish his fucking career. With me, I'm outspoken, I'm a loud fucking mouth, but I'm not going to embellish what I get. I don't need to. But when do you, or have you ever stepped in a pile in your own shit and went too far, and then like, oh crap, I've got to walk this back. I overstepped. I attacked this too hard. This guy, he wasn't stolen valor, or he even said he even corrected a mistake, and I just missed it. I mean, it'd be hard to do, man, if I was in your shoes.
It's not easy, man. I mean, it's not. I work really, really hard to not ever call out someone. And at this point, I have not called out anybody and incorrectly, degraded a real veteran. And if I did, I would come out and fucking, own my mistake. But that, and that's why a lot of people get pissed off at me because, they say, well, you're taking too long. Well, you know what, guys, I would rather fucking take a year and not erroneously call out a true veteran than to just, be, like any of these media outlets don't want to be the first one to get the fucking story and just deal with.
If only the real media, not the real media, but if only the rest of the media worked that way.
Right.
But they all want to speak. Anthony, can you tell us what your process, because, like I've seen people accuse you of hacking. People don't understand that there's like a legitimate process other than just room and scuttlebutt and the water cooler, where you can actually factually get all of this stuff.
Right. Yeah, there's a process. I mean, the federal, the Freedom of Information Act gives you access to almost any documents that you need. I mean, and that's what it's there for. It's because the government, oversight basically for watchdogs or whatever that can go and get these records. I'll use Tim Sheehy for an example. I heard some scuttlebutt starting about Tim Sheehy. Oh, he may not have been what he was, blah, blah, blah. So I said, you know what? Let me get ahead of this beast, because with SEALs and special operators, current sitting congressman, the president, whatever, there's another process that it has to go through. I can submit a FOIA on, on you, Chris, and it's called a simple, they call it a simple track because, you're out of the military.
Sure.
You were never a Navy SEAL, nothing like that. So, I could get your records, in 2 to 3 months. Tim Sheehy, it took me almost a year to get his records. Why? Because he was a Navy SEAL. He was a recent Navy SEAL. So his records had to go through several different processes. They call it the complex track, where several different JAGs had to look over and say, okay, yeah, this doesn't need to be in the public, and redact certain things. And I finally got Sheehy's records, and I verified, yes, he was Navy SEAL. Dude's got several Valor awards. He's got a Purple Heart. He was wounded. Because there were people calling him out, some places saying, hey, he lied about being wounded. No, dude was wounded. He definitely stacked bodies. And I've still got his records in case, anybody needs them. I've had people reach out already and said, hey, you got Tim Shee's records. Can I get a copy? Sure, no problem.
And you can do that, even though you did a whole process of getting them. People can just come to you and say, they don't have to go through a same process that you had to, because you've already cleared them.
And the reason being is because, I've been doing this for so long that, I'm not just, oh, well, they didn't just get these records from anybody. They got it from Guardian of Valor.
Gotcha.
You can Google me and they'll say, okay, yeah, this guy's legit. He does this process legit. Like with Steve Slayton, man, Steve Slayton, he's tried everything. He's still trying. His wife posted yesterday that she was going to sue me because I stole his identity and got his DD-214. I didn't steal anything. I used the Freedom of Information Act, and I got your records. And, if you're saying I stole his records, then you must be confirming that what I have is true. I mean, so, but once I get the records, that's not the only thing I do. I take the records as just a piece of the pie. I use that, and I also use OSINT. I go open source and I look through their backgrounds. I pull background checks. Mary is very good at that. She helps me with my background checks. I go to Doug Sterner. He's a military historian. He helped me with the Slayton case. I said, dude, you're a Vietnam veteran. Here, help me out with this. And he said, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And so basically, it's a process. I look at it this way. After I finish a case, if I look at it and say, okay, if I can take this case in front of a jury of 12 of my peers, and they would look at this and say, you're guilty, I'll post it. If I look at it and say, they probably wouldn't, even if my gut says the person did this, I won't post it because I would rather, let 100 stolen Valor people walk than to call out one real veteran.
Yeah.
And that's one rule I stick by no matter what. And that's why it's hard to find people to work with me, because they want to call out. I've had people work with me in the past, and they immediately want to call somebody out when they see something. And I said, no, we can't do that. We got to make sure we got all our ducks in a row, because if we do this and we're wrong, we destroy our integrity.
Right.
I mean,
and the problem is
I've been around for over a decade.
Yeah, I was also gonna say, like, almost all organizations that dive into politics, super PACs, they're all paid basically by one party or the other to dig up dirt on the other party. So what you do is very unique. You know what I wanted to ask you though? Do you ever deal with because this is where it really gets tough. Do you ever deal with CIA? Because one of the most egregious forms of stolen valor that I ever saw, I gotta say to Dave Park, was really thanks to his co-host Jack Murphy, and that was this guy Wayne Simmons, who claimed to be super high up at the CIA. And I will tell you my story. I booked this guy. I still have whatever his number was in my cell phone many times for the David Webb show, right? And David Webb was like, "Yeah, Wayne is a great guy," And Wayne wrote a book that said on the book, real quote from him, Donald Rumsfeld, and the quote was pretty much, Wayne Simmons has been there and done that. And Wayne Simmons faked his way so high. He was one of the guys like at the White House, talking basically in the room to deal with the Iraq war. and to get us into the Iraq War and things like that. So anyway, I knew the name. I think I was even thinking of using him on SOFREP at one point because I spoke to him so many times. Seemed legit to me. The guy was on Fox News regularly, and Jack Murphy said to me, "Never fucking book that guy. He was never in the CIA." And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, maybe Jack's right, maybe Jack's wrong. Maybe a year goes by or 2 years go by. Wayne Simmons gets arrested because he's been trading off the name and the what he did and stealing money because of this. And it turns out Wayne Simmons served, I believe, like a month in the Navy and got kicked out of the Navy for something. And that was his entire military career. And the rest of his life, he faked being in the CIA. So I got to ask you about that because the CIA is even fucking crazier, man, because the CIA is never going to come out and say this guy served, this guy didn't serve. So you really have to dig in to know if someone is fake CIA. And I think there are plenty of those guys still on MSNBC and CNN and Fox who weren't in the CIA, but they go on there. And as someone who's kind of worked in the business a little bit, I know that like if you write a book and you say in the CIA and you say what they want you to say, that like Trump did this or Biden is responsible for this, and you're going to make the point that they like, they're like, get this guy on TV. No one does any vetting. No one looks into things. So yeah, I'm wondering your take on that.
I've really not dealt with the CIA except for in one case years ago, and the reason I dealt with it is because this guy was really high up in the Republican Party. He actually helped Trump win in 2016 in Florida.
Wow.
His name was Rudy Gresham, and Rudy had for years claimed he was Special Forces. He was actually a member of the Special Forces Association. He'd been presented awards from them. But every time the Special Forces Association would ask him for his DD-214, he would always have an excuse as to why he couldn't present it. So they came to me and said, "Hey, man, what's the deal with this guy?" And at the time, I had a guy was working with me. I'm not gonna put his name out there, but he actually runs Guardians of the Green Beret now. But he worked with me at the time, and so me and him started looking into Rudy Gresham. And what Rudy Gresham had done was he had served in the military, and he was in Vietnam, and he claimed that he had been, I guess you would say, fraught into special forces during Vietnam by a certain general. So I dug really deep into this guy. I finally found his real name. I can't remember what his real name was, and I pulled his 214. No mention of special forces. And so I went public with it. Well, as soon as I went public with it, man, his supporters, because he, like I said, he was a big guy. He had a lot, he was pouring money into these campaigns. They came to me and said, "Hey, man, you need to take that down. Rudy is a operative." I'm like, "What?" They were like, "Yeah, we can show you the proof." There was like, "Will you meet us such and such?" He actually flew down from Virginia to meet me at Fort Jackson.
Wow.
And they said, "Look, we're going to meet you at the chapel at Fort Jackson. You can have a person come in that can monitor. We're going to have a person that can come in and monitor, but there's no electronic devices allowed." No problem. So I attended this meeting, and these guys present me with this paperwork. And basically this paperwork says it was signed by a general, I can't remember his name, that Rudy was a member of the CIA. His name had been changed, and it was signed by this general. Well, the thing was, this general was in his 90s when he signed this memorandum. And Rudy had worked for this general and went to him while he was in his 90s and said, "Hey, sign this paperwork." The general never even knew what he was signing.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, "Look," I said, "it's staying up." I said, "This is bullshit. This is fake paperwork." I said, "Rudy Gresham was never Special Forces." I said, "He never will be Special Forces, and he wasn't CIA." There was actually a book out there. I can't remember the name of the book, but there's a whole chapter that they wrote on Rudy Gresham where he claims that the Special Forces were involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. He actually went on a national news show. I want to say it was Oprah or one of those shows with the family of Martin Luther King and told them that the Special Forces had actually assassinated Martin Luther King.
It's unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
And this dude's story was huge, man. And so
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying this episode thus far. Every single episode of Battle Line Podcast is brought to you by Fort Scott Munitions. Go to the site, check out the limited edition tins. I think they still have the Trump tins if that's your thing, but they've got plenty of different tins, plenty of different ammo, including, of course, the range ammo, which you've been talking about.
Yeah, range ammo, and I've got a private course this weekend, and yeah, I'll be shooting that out there, shooting the 5.56 and shooting 9 mil range ammo. Guys, copper, that's lead free, which most ranges are requiring now. And again, it's range ammo, so it's not as expensive as their TUI. So if you're just going out the range to train, use it, but it's still as effective, it's still as consistent, and it's still as accurate as that TUI ammo that I use for my home defense. So, and everyday carry. So go check it out, pick it up, and you're going to love it.
And now that I'm doing the read, I'm reminded because I've gone to the site, they have some really kick-ass new shirts. I think I
Yeah.
might actually order one when we're done with this because they've got some really cool merchandise up there. All their stuff is always limited though. Sometimes you'll go on there and you'll be like, this shirt is awesome, but they don't have it in my size. So like if you see it in your size, pick it up because it'll probably be out of stock the next week, but they're always making new stuff. So check it out. FSM.com. Use the exclusive promo code BattleLine for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. That's FSM.com. Promo code BattleLine. We also have the best night vision sponsor. I love when I get to hang out with those guys, Sean Kirk, Phil Otto, because they really know night vision like no other. They could talk all about the science behind it and why this is such a premium product. But check it out. Now you can have the superpower to see in the dark with the Viper Binocular Night Vision System by Photonis Defense, the global leader in night vision solutions, providing more high-quality night vision capabilities than anyone. Military, law enforcement, and public safety end users utilize Photonis Defense solutions to give them the edge at night in tactical situations and rescue operations. Hunters, shooters, boaters, and enthusiasts can rely on the Photonis Defense Viper Binocular to become masters of darkness. The new Viper Binocular system carries the same features and benefits as the Photonis Defense Viper Monocular with a ruggedized body and harnesses the power of the Echo Intensifier tubes, giving you sharper images, reduced halo, and industry-leading ultra-fast auto-gating across the range of dynamic operating conditions. Visit PhotonisDefense.com for more information or look for Photonis Defense product options from your night vision dealer. That's PHOTONIS defense.com, PhotonisDefense.com. Go there now. And with that, let's get back to this interview with Stolen Valor, Anthony Anderson.
Man, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I was going to ask you, how do you get their DD-214s through a FOIA? How do you though? Because we all know that if you've got any WASTA with that little S1 clerk, or maybe the clerk isn't aware or whatever, like there are ways to get that silver star on there, or to get that purple heart on there sometimes. On the DD-214, is there a way to go back and find actual orders for the awards and things like that?
Yes. The FOIA is not, it doesn't cover just 214. The way the FOIA works is you have to specifically request specific items. If you send in a FOIA and you only request the 214, that's all you're getting. When I send my FOIAs in, I request the entire military personnel file that is releasable to the public. Like with Tim Sheehy, I didn't request just his 214. I requested his entire OMPF. So I got his citations for his Purple Heart. I got his citations for all of his Valor awards. I got his orders. I got, and what all they redact is stuff that may be confidential. Like I think they redacted the area that he got awarded his RCOM with V. They, because some of that stuff is still confidential. But as far as the paperwork, it's all in the OMPF. And if you can't back it up with OMPF, like I did have a situation where there was a guy that actually had the Purple Heart added to his 214. He was actually a member of the military honor of the Purple Heart Association. They came to me and said, "Hey man, there's some questions about this guy. His 214 says he has a Purple Heart, but he can't produce a certificate." So I went to NPRC, had them pull the records, and there was no certificate. There was no orders. And so I went back to the NPRC and said, "Hey, so why is his Purple Heart on there?" And they said, well, they went back to the Army. The Army could not verify it. And come to find out, the dude had never gotten a Purple Heart, was never in the area he had claimed to have gotten a Purple Heart. So they rescinded his Purple Heart. Same thing if we go back to Congressman Nails, wearing his CIB. It was on his DD 214. He had orders for his CIB, but he was not an 11 Bravo. He was not an 18 series when he was deployed in 2008, and he already had a cab from 2004. So I was like, okay, well, why does he have a CIB? The regulations is very strict when it comes to that award. And they opened an investigation. They even talked to the original S1. The S1 said, look, dude, I didn't sign that memo. He said, that's not my signature. I don't know who did it. I can't prove to this day who signed that order to award Nails the CIB, but the Army revoked his CIB. And fortunately, Nails finally gave it up. He finally gave up the fight, even though he sent congressional letters and all that other bullshit. He finally gave it up, which I applaud him for that. He did finally do the right thing.
But he did have his, you said, because that's what me and Ian didn't know when we discussed it. He did get his cab though?
Yes, he was awarded the cab. The cab came out in 05. And in 04,
Gotcha.
they retroacted it back to 05. He was a civil affairs officer then as well.
Gotcha.
But he did get awarded a cab. And of course, you can only get one combat award for the entire global war on terror. No matter if you went to Iraq 5 times and Afghanistan 6, you can only get one. So
yeah, and that's goes back to why I say why that's great. You got a cab, man. You got a fucking combat badge,
right?
So my question is, you've seen this a bunch. You've continued to see it. What's wrong up here then? Is it just a bravado? Is it arrogance? Dude, is there some narcissism? Obviously, there's narcissism, but what the fuck is it? Right. What's wrong in their head? Because he had no reason to fabricate anything.
Right. I've seen it come from both ends of the spectrum. I've seen guys that I wouldn't call out because they were literally, they were mentally ill, to the point where, look, dude, don't mess with the guy, so what, he's literally mentally ill. And then you got the other side of the spectrum where these guys are just doing it for the bravado. I had a fake Marine who was walking around in Las Vegas in the airport. And a DI actually caught him and called him out because he was wearing, he was claiming to be a Marine, was wearing lieutenant or Lance Corporal stripes, but was wearing the blood stripe on his pants. Yeah. And so the DI was like, dude, you're no fucking Marine. Come to find out, he was just walking around so people could shake his hand and say, thank you for your service. Then you've got the guys like I was talking about earlier that I busted in Florida. He forged that 214. Turn it into the VA. The VA even accepted it, man. Even with where it says confirmed kills in Block 18, they accepted it. Dude got disability benefits for years. Wow. They ended up prosecuting him as well. He got 5 years and ended up having to pay $280,000 back to the VA that he stole on disability benefits. Wow. So it's a wide it's a wide array of why they do these things.
And what's weird, what's really weird is when somebody has honorable, not just honorable service, like what's weird is when you get a guy who has a Silver Star and decides he needs 2.
2, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Or 3, or, it's like, and I part of it is maybe like people never, like my story, like I didn't do enough. Like if there's somebody else out there who has more or did more, maybe like if they're constantly like evaluating or sure. Like, it's fascinating to me that, like I said, the 2 different worlds, and politicians are a whole nother thing, right? Because politicians, what makes me laugh is, because we, like I said, whenever Anthony like is onto something, like I amplify it as much as I can. And I joke, like I'm sarcastic as hell when it comes to like their stuff. And
well,
to me,
that's what we do, dude. That's what that's what bad boys do. You just do what bad boys do, man.
And I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat.
Yeah.
I lean conservative, but I don't care. Like, why do you want somebody like Slayton? Why do you want somebody to represent you who's willing to lie about their service? Like, why would you want that? And what's wild to me is, so politicians are own thing. All politicians lie. They'll either lie about military service, they'll lie about, marching in the civil rights, or, the marching for civil rights. Like they'll lie about what their base cares about. So probably I think like conservatives probably lie more about their service than Democrats, because most Democrats don't give a fuck about somebody's service, like generally. But what's weird to me is like you have the civilians who lie, and like they're just wannabes. And they never lie about being a mechanic, right? They always lie about.
I know.
Then you have the veterans who will lie about shit that like no civilian knows the difference between a combat infantry badge and a combat action badge.
No,
Nobody,
as the civilian, I'll tell you right now, couldn't tell you.
Nobody cares. And in this day and age, you know you're going to get caught. So why are you lying about that?
And
It's
that's
so,
and that goes back to is it a mental disorder more than anything than not just straight up bravado, narcissism, and where in the past we'd say, well, it's just your ego. Well, you're so obvious you're going to get caught now, and you still go ahead and do it. It's got to be more than just
it's some weird
ego.
like defect I think people have where they need this attention. They crave this attention. Like this is not a stolen valor, but it's a similar mental thing. Did you guys ever hear about the comedian Steve Renazzisi? So this guy, he had a really successful like Hollywood career as a comedian, as an actor, and he would constantly tell people, I was there on 9/11 when the planes crashed into the buildings. Like I was working there and I had to run out of the building. And he kept saying it again and again on stage, in interviews. And he had to eventually come out and say, I wasn't even near there when it happened on 9/11. I liked the attention I was getting for it. I don't understand that at all. I don't get it.
yeah.
I don't get it.
I mean, that's like with nails, man. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there with cabs that would be fucking overjoyed if he would put a cab on his fucking lapel. I mean, he wore the CIB, he took it off, replace it with your cab, dude. Make these other soldiers out there that earned their cab, proud. I mean, there's guys out there that were wounded, lost legs, lost arms, that were awarded a cab for that. Show some respect for those guys.
Oh shit! I mean, the MPs in the early days, they were the ones out there getting hammered a lot.
Yeah, man.
Truck drivers.
Look,
88 bikes were out there getting shot up.
Yeah.
Well, look at our friend. Look at Jessica Lynch. Jessica's a friend, and she's not. I mean, do you not think that they didn't deserve a cab? I mean, holy shit! And are they?
Right.
No. And do you? And she doesn't care about her infantry. She was in combat, and she knows it. She got nothing else to try to embellish about. Keep moving on, and we're talking towards, and we're getting into a little bit more politics. We haven't really hit. I mean, we did a little bit on the Tim. What the hell is this? I don't even know the video.
Tim Walz.
Yeah.
The Minnesota go. Is this going to go anywhere with him? And I agree with Dave. When you lie about something like that, your integrity and your credibility in my book has been gone. It's gone. Your credibility's gone. Your integrity's gone. The Army values, and I'm just going to say why you even didn't go to combat, which to me, you pissed down your leg. Maybe it was something other than that, but to me, that was chickening out. It's my opinion. But is this going to end? Because Dave also has a good point. Democrats don't give a shit. Republicans will still keep hammering. I lean right like Dave too. And will I continue to hammer him on it? Fuck yeah, I'm going to. And I will say it right now. But is it going to do anything to affect the election if she continues to keep him, or is it just, are we just beating our heads against the tree because nobody really gives two shits about it as far as the civilians?
I think if it was more, if he'd have come out and said, I had the fucking Silver Star, or like Steve did. If Steve said, I was a combat pilot and I fucking, I served in Vietnam, he makes insinuations a lot, I mean, and it's hard not to say that Tim Walz has not misspoke, I mean, because there's lots of videos out there where he makes an insinuation. Yes, the dude served. Yes, he was in Italy in support of enduring freedom, but sometimes he makes it sound to civilians like, I was there in the shit, and that's going to upset a lot of veterans. All the veterans that served in Afghanistan don't like to hear somebody say, I was in Afghanistan or Operation Enduring Freedom when you weren't. If you were on the ground and Enduring Freedom, you got a campaign medal for that. You got to, I mean, he does not have that. I'm still waiting on his actual 214 for his time frame in Italy to see if he got the Expeditionary Medal, but he would not have the Afghanistan campaign medal because he was not in Afghanistan, Same with the video where he says, you know, and I had a lot of Democrats attack me for that, saying, "Oh, you put the comma in the wrong place." No, that's how the campaign presented it. If you listen to the video, he says, "In war," while I was in war. You know, dude was not in war. There's a difference. He was in Italy in support of the war. You know, I mean, there's a big difference, and civilians don't understand that. You know, as veterans, we do. So that's why veterans are more upset, you know, than civilians would be, because they really don't give a fuck.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so
And they're
you know
veterans. Yeah. And he has his campaign has come out. They apologized. He said he misspoke, so he
Right.
lied. He like
Right.
his campaign has apologized, and if they have changed like his bio on the official site, then
they did.
got caught with his hand in the cookie jar.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
know,
they did. They changed his bio on the campaign from retired command sergeant major to served as command sergeant major.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I
I'll give you my opinion for what it's worth, if it's even worth anything to Chris's question, because I was thinking about this morning, actually, just in preparation for this interview. And I just think by and large, most people know who they're voting for right now in this election. And I think the people they're trying to convince are a very small amount of swing voters, or people who are voting for Kennedy, who are just like, you know what, it's a wasted vote. I'm going to go with one of these people or the other person. And then the other thing I was thinking about, just racking my brain, because that's just kind of how I am in prepping for these interviews, is that the news cycle just goes so quickly. We're on to the, like, Trump getting shot, we're already on to the next thing, even though it's like one of the most historical events any of us will ever see.
Yeah.
Right. And now it seems like it was last
back,
year.
Yeah, I was thinking back, because this is crazy. You guys will remember this, to when I was a little kid, and you know what was going. Maybe I just always was interested in politics. Like, I remember them talking about Dan Quayle running with George Bush, and I remember the big scandal. Do you guys remember that the big scandal with Dan Quayle was that he went to like a grammar school, and there was a spelling bee, and they said spell potato, and the kid said Potato. And then Dan Quayle said, no, there's an E at the end. And this, I remember, was a giant fucking news story. They were like, man, this guy is a moron. He doesn't even know how to spell the word potato. Now, think about that in the context of today. No one would even give a shit for 5 minutes. But back then, because we're so plugged into the news cycle every 2 seconds, that every day it's a new thing. And I think whatever we're talking about today, it's going to be entirely different than what we're talking about 2 months from now. And I do think there are people very offended, of course, understandably, by Tim Walz embellishing his service. But in my opinion, just as a political observer, is it going to impact the vote at all? No. I think anybody who's voting for Kamala Harris is going to make an excuse for it and move on.
Right.
That's my opinion.
No, I agree. I think at this point, everybody's made their minds up.
Yeah.
And it's just, right now, it's just, you know, it's just a battle. Can
I mention one other thing, Anthony? How crazy is it that before they picked Tim Walz, and it looked like they were going to pick Josh Shapiro, I came across that article in the Daily Beast that in his 20s, Josh Shapiro had written an article that he volunteered in the IDF, and he didn't volunteer in the IDF. So of the two vice presidential candidates, they both would have had a stolen valor.
I didn't know that either. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I tweeted it to you. You came, I think you retweeted it, man, because he wrote it on, he said, I was 20, but he wrote in the article, I volunteered with the IDF, and he didn't. He volunteered in Israel for something having nothing to do with the IDF, and it was on a military base.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so it's just, so those were the two picks, and they both would have been accused of stolen valor. Pretty fucking crazy, I think.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And
I've seen a lot of like hate thrown your way by both the right and the left when you call out stolen valor for their people. And it amazes me that people protect politicians more than they would protect their best friend. They protect politicians. Like, I don't know why they idolize these career liars, but they do, right? But have you? So I see the hate. Like, I saw the hate that because Majewski, like, was another one, right? Like, but has anybody from either side said, okay, you're right, they lied, but I'm still voting for them, but you're right, they lied?
They have. There have been a few. I've had some DMs. I've had some people in the comments. have actually come in and said, "Hey, man, look, I know you're straight down the middle. I may not like what you find, but I'm going to accept what you find." And I wish more people could be like that, because I'm not, like I said, I've got my own political thoughts, of course. I mean, everybody does, but I try my best not to get it tied up in what I do.
Yeah.
And I hope that shows, and it seems to be showing. It's just that, and some people do realize that. They say, "Hey, man, I may not like what you find, but I will accept what you find. Will it change my vote? Maybe not. Will it, I mean,
I always think if you
so
have liberals getting mad at you and you have conservatives getting mad at you, you're doing something right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been accused of getting Soros money and money from Hillary Clinton, and I mean, I'm like, dude, I'm looking at my bank account and it's fucking laughing at me. I mean, come on.
Well, that's, I guess I didn't, do you get any compensation for this at all, or is this is all doing it for of your own?
I never have gotten any compensation. I will say today, yesterday, several people said, "Hey, man, set up I didn't even know what it was, buy me a coffee account, I guess what it was, is what it's called." They said, "Hey, set you up one of those. I would like to send you a couple of dollars." So I did set that up today, and I posted it on my Stolen Valor page. And man, people have been very, very fucking generous. I was amazed. People went on there and started, sending some donations. And my daughter just went to college. I just dropped her off Saturday, at her apartment, and I was like, "How the fuck am I going to, times are tight for everybody, right?"
Oh yeah.
And I'm on disability, so I'm like, okay, so how am I going to support two households? And my daughter needs groceries. And so when I posted this today and the money started coming in, I was like, wow. So hey, I can buy my daughter some groceries this week. That works.
Awesome.
So
Cool.
yeah, up until now, I will say, back in the day, Grunt Style did come step up. And what they did is they would make T-shirts for us, and they would give us a percentage of the Grunt Style shirts that they made for us.
That's cool.
Grunt Style has been one of our biggest supporters, man. I do have to give a shout out to Tim Jensen at Grunt Style. He's a great guy. He's all about the veterans, and he has supported me 100% from the beginning. Daniel Alaric, of course, he's no longer there, but Daniel Alaric was a big supporter from the beginning. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for those two guys. They actually kept the website archived and kept everything archived until I decided to come back. And when I decided to come back, I reached out to Tim, and he said, "Hell yeah, man, we need you back into space." And so, yeah, those guys have been a big supporter.
It's cool.
That's fantastic. I mean, really, because a lot of people who aren't interested in this topic aren't familiar with your work, that every time you post, especially about a politician, it brings in a whole bunch of people that don't even take the time to go through like your feed and see that you criticize left and right. But honestly, every time you do this on a politician, you should immediately link your coffee or put your coffee link, because if you're like calling out a politician to the other side, and people are gonna people who hate that politician are gonna donate to you because they think that you're on their side.
Right.
They don't know that you're just doing the right thing, because people don't pay for doing the right thing. They pay for people who echo
back up there. Yeah,
they become part of their tribe. Yeah, man, market that shit. Market that shit.
Definitely put your coffee anytime you hit a politician, because whoever it is, people on the other side will donate a ton to you because they think you're going after.
You're right.
You know what I think, man?
Did anybody see that dot going back and forth behind Anthony, like somebody's aiming a reticle at him or something, man?
Hey,
was I the only one that saw that?
That's from his watch. It's probably a reflection from his watch.
Okay, I was like, man, Anthony, you better duck or something. Somebody's fucking
hey, man, I was
you know what I was
going to
say though, man? Like, so with Tim Walz, the guy's been a governor, and it's like all of this is just coming out now, and I feel like you are a resource that the parties should have to vet people before they run. Because I could tell you in my district, it's not a stolen valor thing, but I mention it all the time. And we had the Navy veteran that he stole charity money from, allegedly, George Santos. And dude, this guy ran for Congress. No one knew anything about his background. And it was a left wing journalist, Jacqueline Sweet, in my area. All credit to Jacqueline, although I might not agree with her politics. She did the work. After he got elected, she's the one who came out and was like, this guy's full of shit. And I was like, why did it take this girl, not girl, but woman, whatever, in her 30s, I believe, to find this out? Why didn't the Republican Party do some research before they let this guy on the ballot? And I just feel like they need to have someone like you there, whether it's Republican or Democrat, and say, is this guy's service legit? Because it really dupes the American public when, we just watch ads on TV and we're like, wow, this guy did something heroic. All right, I'm gonna, put the nudge in for him for my vote. And then we learn that it was all a lie. And I don't know why the Republican Party or the Democrat Party doesn't have someone like you hired as a consultant to look into backgrounds, because truth, they obviously suck at it, because we keep hearing about this all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did actually have somebody from the Democratic Party reach out a couple of days ago and said, hey, well, would you be willing to go under a contract for us to do research? And I told him, I said, well, that's not something that I want to do unless I'm doing it for both parties, because I don't want to be seen as a partisan. Oh, he's just going after Democrats. He's just going after Republicans or whatever. So, I mean, I would, if I could stay independent and do that, I absolutely would do that. I mean, I do it for employers. I have PIs that come to me sometimes that are investigating for, prospective employees for companies, and they say, hey, can you check this guy out? So.
Yeah. No,
If you were to take, even if you were to take money to investigate one Republican or one Democrat, like, you would do that anyway. So if you take money from the parties to do that, then it looks like even though it's in your nature and you would do it anyway, it looks like a hack job, even if that's not the truth of it.
Yeah. The optics looks like you're taking sides,
Sides.
or at least gives people ammunition to say you're taking a side. When you're just being, like I said on X, you're being Sergeant Joe Friday. You're just the facts. But man, but Ian's right. I mean, that is something that people should be done nowadays, especially since it's not taking as seriously as it needs to be, by just having Tim Waltz and that's the SEAL, the Vietnam guy. What's it?
Slayton.
Yeah,
Slayton
Was in a unit so classified.
and they've, he was the Minnesota governor. Do you not think he didn't use? Obviously, he did use that to get elected to be the Minnesota governor. Do you not think Slayton's done it in other things as well? They've been doing it for years, and they finally got caught. So obviously, it's something that needs to be nipped in the bud now, or it's just going to continue to proliferate. And people are just they're going to, like a private does. They're just going to apologize. They're going to get caught, and they're going to be all right. Just ask for forgiveness, but we're going to keep doing it. But we're just going to keep asking for forgiveness every time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too, is that, like, with Waltz, and again, I don't care about Waltz because he's a Democrat. Because I'll talk as much shit about Slayton. I'll talk shit, Neil. I'll talk shit about any politician for any reason, really, but specifically on Storm.
That's true.
But with Waltz, it's, if you look at things that have been written about him before this period of time, it was mentioned numerous times throughout his career that he was a combat veteran, right? Or that he had seen combat. Well, it's like we said earlier, there are times when people will say that Jack Murphy is a SEAL, or I was a SEAL, or that we did this or we did that. And, and it's hard to stop people from saying stuff. All you can do is go back after and correct it. But when they write about it or whatever. But you also have to think that if numerous people from my past, if there were a lot of like things written about me that said that I had been a SEAL, then you'd have to wonder why all these people thought I was a SEAL over an extended period of time.
And why did you let it go?
They all get it wrong because I was a diver. So when we go back and we look at all the writings about Waltz before this time, and all these people talk about his time in combat or his combat experience, you have to wonder, why were all these people under that impression?
And why didn't he? Because obviously he's got to be reading them. He's got press people. Why didn't he step in and say, no, that's incorrect, and correct it? Just like, again, I use the example from that commercial. If I would have let that commercial run for 2 years and then somebody like Anthony called me out on it and then I stopped it, I knew what was going on. That's my
Right.
integrity violation. No, I saw it. We stop it. He sees it. We stop it. We nip it in the bud now.
Right.
But I'm in agreement with Day. That's why we need you in not in politics, Anthony, unless that's what you want to do. You want to run
No,
for governor.
absolutely not.
But we definitely need a fact checker and an independent apolitical fact checker to do that. And you should be reimbursed for that. I don't want you to do it for free. But then, yeah, how do we do the optics where he's getting paid? It's how do you do that? But do we need you?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, we need you. We need you to
Yeah,
continue to
I don't
call
want.
it.
I never want to tank the mission, because the mission, like I said, the mission is to, protect Valor. I mean, we don't just go after stolen valor. I mean, if you look back at what happened with Chuck Ritter, I mean, he was blasted for some shit he didn't do, man, because of this one female that just had it out for him,
Yeah.
and was almost demolished this man's career. And dude, he's a fucking hero as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he's been shot, he's been blown up. And so, I went to bat for him, and I didn't know Chuck Ritter before that. He hit my inbox one day. He said, "Hey man, I know you don't know me, but I know your background." He said, "This isn't stolen valor, but I would love for you to just kind of look at this case and give the public your opinion." And so I went through all the evidence and tracked these people down, talked to these people, and come to find out it was her. I mean, it was this female that was going around just destroying these soldiers' lives. She was literally,
I didn't know that.
targeting special forces. She was targeting Delta guys to do this shit to them, and she would have a husband at one time and fucking, she would have 3 other dudes over here on the side, and she would steal their fucking silverware, man, and sell it at the pawn shop. I mean, it was just fucking nuts, and so I went to bat for Chuck and said, "Hey man," and we ended up, saving his nation per se. So our mission is twofold. We don't just go after the bad guys. We go to bat for the good guys.
That's cool. And that's just another reason not to live in Vietnam, man. So fucking crazy women out there. Yeah, stay away from Fayette. But yeah, I guess, I didn't know you guys went that other route. And that's cool. That's great to know that now veterans that are being attacked have an asset at their disposal, like yourself, to help them out, which that's true. I knew who Ritter was. I didn't know you did that though. That was freaking, that's amazing. Well done. Kudos, brother. Well done, man.
Appreciate it, brother.
How many cases, because it costs you money too, it's not just your time, but like when you request that stuff, like they charge you for the printing, like they charge you, right? How many cases would you say you work a month average? Or a year if that's easier.
I get just to give you kind of an overall umbrella. Over the past 2 months, I have probably gotten, and this is no shit, probably 300 cases that are possible stolen valor. Can I work 300 cases? Fucking no way. So I have to look through these cases and say, I have to pick and choose. Okay, is this more egregious than this one? Is this more egregious than that one? Like right now, I'm working 2 cases. And then all of a sudden, I got this waltz thing thrown on top of me when I just finished with Slayton. But I've got another one I'm looking into that's pretty big. But the time it's going to take to look into it, because it's such a big case, because this person's claimed a lot of stuff. They were in the military a lot of years, but a lot of their shit ain't adding up. But this person's so out into the public that I have to take my time. So it could take, 6 months to a year just to do that one case, just to be sure, that I've got all my ducks in a row, and that this person did what, it claimed that person did. So I would say on average, man, I probably do 100 cases a year.
Wow.
Easy. And out of those 100 cases, I would say maybe 60% of them are actually stolen valor.
That's still a lot. That's a pretty big percentage, man.
Yeah.
60%. Holy shit. No wonder your wife hates you, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to take a break, man.
She tells me that all the time. She's like, "Can we watch a movie tonight?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, kind of busy." But I mean, it's like right now, I just got a message from Sergeant Major Troxel, and he said, yeah, he will come on space tonight. So
That's cool.
I got to get that set up with him. I don't know if you know Troxel. He's a good guy.
I know of Trox, so I've never met him
yeah.
before. Yeah, never.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and he wants to kind of give his 2 cents on what's going on with the situation as well.
Well, then you're doing all this. Why the fuck are you adding more shit to your plate then by doing shit on the space? What's wrong? What's wrong with?
I'm hoping with the space. But my hoping is with the space tonight is that I can calm people down and they can hear it from other sergeant majors, because it's not just him. I'm going to have I'm trying to get 2 other sergeant majors that actually went through all the training and the academy and shit, and to give their opinion and their advice on why or why not he should or shouldn't be claiming he's a retired command sergeant major.
Right.
And maybe they'll take their word for it.
Based on like what just prior to doing this, because we're airing this a week later, but what is their opinion by and large? Do you think that they think what Walsh is doing is egregious? What do you think?
They do, and main reason is because they had to go through the training, they had to go to the academy, and he didn't do any of that. You know what I mean? That would be like like me saying that I was a ranger and I've never made it through RASP.
No, your example would be like you calling yourself a platoon sergeant. You're an E7.
Right.
You're not.
Right. I'm not.
You're not. And that's, I don't see why Democrats or whoever, if that's who liberals are mad at you for. It's just the fact. It is. It says right there. It's the regulations. It's the black and white. That's what it says. What are you mad at? So, well, then help me. What are they mad at then? What the fuck are they mad at?
I don't know, man. It's like you got the Minnesota National Guard. For one thing, they need to get one person to speak, because I've seen 3 different things from them. They told me, yes, he served as a sergeant major, but he did not retire as a sergeant major. Then you've got them telling somebody else, well, he retired as a sergeant major, so he can probably call himself a retired sergeant major. Well, no, because he was reduced. Y'all want to raise hell about Ronnie Jackson, which obviously he was demoted from a rear admiral to a captain, and I agree with that. He should not be calling himself a rear admiral. But yet, you want to say that Waltz can call himself a command sergeant major. Even though he didn't do anything wrong, it was administratively he didn't complete the work. He should also not be able to call himself a command sergeant major. Period.
I think what it is people assume, because they haven't seen your previous work, as Dave kind of said, so they assume you're a Trump supporter, and then they'll go, well, what about Trump? He dodged the draft and stuff like that. And this guy at least served. But it's like, that's not what you do. That's not your lane.
Right, exactly. And like I said, I've been called that. I've seen hundreds of comments saying, oh, what about Trump? He dodged. Trump wasn't in the military. I have no reason to look into Trump. The same. And then there was like, oh, what about JD Vance? Okay, you want JD Vance? And that's what somebody called me out for that. And I said, hey, guess what? Boom. Here's his 214. I pulled his too.
Yeah.
He hasn't lied about his service. He was in Iraq. He's never seen combat. Here's just 214. And then you got all these memes going around that are actually down in JD, only showing 2 of his awards. So I said, look, guys, if you want to be correct about it, give them both credit for what they've done. JD's got more than 2 awards than all these memes going around showing he only has 2. Let's be fair here.
I'll inject my complete personal bias. When Trump picked JD Vance, I'll be honest, and I'm voting for Trump, I did not think it was a good pick, man. I thought he had so many other great people to pick from. I'm not really happy with the pick, but whatever. I'm going to vote for Trump. And then I saw Tim Walz, and I'm like, man, if Vance was going to wreck this for Trump at all, they really fucked up on the Democrat end, because everything about this guy, man, and this isn't in your case, but dude, he pretty much let them burn Minnesota down, and he's been on the side of Ilhan Omar, and that's not what mainstream America agrees with. So I was just like, man, you guys really screwed up this one with who you picked. I don't think it's going to screw up her chances personally, but just when you compare the two, JD Vance, I think he's kind of boring, but at least the guy hasn't lied about anything.
Yeah, at least. Good.
I was just going to say that it's really, I don't know if they overvalue the idea of a veteran. because most Americans don't really like. People say they care, but and I'm not saying they don't like care, but they don't really care. Like if you're if your vice president isn't a veteran or you're not a veteran, I mean, both Trump and Biden dodged the draft. They both did, right?
Yeah.
Like, so did Clinton. Like, that's what people were doing in Vietnam. They were either going to fight or they were dodging the draft. And and so it's like, do people really care that JD Vance or Waltz is a veteran? Would it change their vote? No, no. Like people, no, I don't think anybody in the history of like nobody votes for a vice president. And people that they may have hated, just the media 3 months ago was saying Kamala should move aside. And now it's like, oh, it's a love affair.
Yeah.
But they would do the same thing on the right. And one of the things that always gets me, Anthony, when I see your stuff, I said, when you call stuff out, man, I'm like, I'm like, well, I don't have anything better to do. I'm just going to fucking attack this person, and I don't care what party they are. Like I don't care. And I wish more people were like that. Like, it's okay if Waltz lied. It's okay if JD Vance lied. It's okay if Trump lied or Biden lied. They all lie. They're all going to lie. They're politicians. They may differ what they lie about. Just stop like worshiping these people.
Yeah.
And go, they're a politician, so they obviously lied about something. This happens to be the thing they lied about.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think part of the fact is like a lot of people really do look at politics as this chess game. And that's why, like when you said earlier, Dave, where you were like, you really want someone like that representing you. I could say once again, like as George Santos district, the whole reason they didn't want this guy out of Congress is it was like, it's a razor thin Republican majority. This guy's going to vote the way we like. And by and large, I would vote the way George Santos votes. And now I have a congressman who wouldn't vote the way I would vote. But there has to be some value to just at least being truthful about your background. And yeah, I mean, to go full circle, that's why it's important to have guys like you doing what you do, keeping politicians honest. And hopefully, I mean, it would be my hope, man, that like going forward, if anybody continues to think of doing this, who's running for office, they're going to see how popular your account is. And they're going to go, I don't want to get called out by Anthony Anderson.
Right, and that's the way it used to be. I mean, years like I said, I just recently came back last year, originally we'd been going for probably a decade before I did that, and it had slowed down some. A lot of people weren't, doing it as bad because they knew, hey, there's people out there's watchdogs out there that are going to call them out. So I'm hoping now that people are seeing that there's people out there doing this now. They're going to get called out. They're going to get posted. They're going to get they're going to get dragged through the mud. That they'll think twice about doing it.
And so keep politicians honest. No, keep people honest and veterans honest. And it is important. And you're right. There's other groups that have spurned off. Brotherhood of the Scroll is on fuck anything Ranger. It's this and like now that motherfucker's a dirtbag. Yeah, I know him. But it's right there. So other groups have spurned off from what you've been doing, which is a good thing. So yeah, I'm in agreement with Ian and Dave though. I know you want to this is for veterans, is to keep the honesty there, but damn brother, definitely could use you in the political world, keeping people honest there. And I know that's not what you set up for, but you become so good at what you're doing and you've stayed middle of the road that I'm sorry to say, man, I would want you there, even though you may not want to be there. We need you there, man. So yeah. And I'll keep on the comments. I mean, I defended you. I didn't know where the fuck. I still didn't get the problem, so I was like, "Fuck." That's why I was ambiguous and just said, "Hey, fuck those motherfuckers." But just keep doing what you're doing because the facts are important, and you being involved in all of it. Sorry, tell your wife I'm sorry. You're gonna take her away from her more, but we need you in that space, not just the veteran space, because this has been.
I appreciate it, man.
No, you're welcome, bro. You're welcome.
Anthony, where do people send like you started a coffee account?
Yeah.
Where can people find you for that if they want to help you out?
I actually put it in my bio on the Twitter account.
I can link it on here too on the description.
I think I put it up on the I think I I think I pinned it to the top of my Twitter account for now, I believe. I'm not exactly sure.
That's cool. I'll link it here in the description. So no matter where you're listening, no matter where you're watching, just click on the description, send a donation Anthony's way.
Fuck yeah,
Just
because
to show that you
kids are
appreciate the work he's
expensive.
doing.
Heck yeah,
Yeah, for
college.
sure.
I got a son starting college again, and damn, that room and board is expensive as shit. I'm starting me a coffee fund too. Screw that. I'm doing the same thing.
Or or send us a super thanks on
That
the
helps.
video, and then that gets
helps.
donated to us. You know what? Before we wrap up, man, you know, anything else you want to say, and also just any ultimate goal that you have in terms of doing this. Like, where do you see this going several years from now, and like, what's the major thing that you hope to accomplish?
Man, the main thing I just want to do is just, keep people honest, man. I mean, be proud of your service. Be proud of what you did. Nobody cares, if you're a water purifier. Nobody gives a shit if you're a cook. I mean, dude, I fucking love my cooks. I mean,
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
One of the hardest jobs in the military.
dude, yeah, man, they get up earlier than any of us. They go to bed later than any of us. They spend all day fucking cooking for us out in the field and shit, man. I mean, give these guys their due. I mean, I like to tell people all the time, I haven't met a fucking cook yet that survived Vietnam. I mean, because nobody wants to claim to be a cook, but guess what? That's the hardest fucking job in the military, just about.
Yeah.
You're
right.
Well,
so I'm
same thing
hoping.
like heat. Those guys out in Iraq and Afghanistan busting their ass out in the heat. Guys and girls busting their ass out in the heat to make sure the people's vehicles ran. Like,
Right.
you don't get any credit at all.
At all, man. At all.
I remember we did that one. It was contractors, but it's still, we had those guys taking mail all over Afghanistan, and that was like, holy shit! I thought I went through some hard,
I
heavy,
remember.
dangerous shit.
Those guys were on your show too, Dave. You know what we're talking about, right?
I was like, wow, that
the guys who were delivering mail and
postcards through the mail, postcards from what's it
Oh
called?
yeah,
again?
yeah.
I got to, I'll give a shout out to those guys. If I could open up the browser here.
But you're Anthony, you're right, man, and be proud of all that service and those guys that I even say you went through basic during NOM. I'm telling you, you probably went through some fucking combat more so than when I went through basic. So why not?
And by the way, just if I don't want to interrupt you, but the book is Postcards Through Hell: The True Story of the Most Remarkable U.S. Mail Delivery Service in Afghanistan, the Pony Express. They've been on the Team House, I'm almost positive, and they were on with us.
Oh, wow, good guys. All I got last thing for you, Anthony, is you're talking about your daughter, your military service, and we get into this sometimes. If I know you have family, you got anything positive to say to dads out there in today's day and age, fathers, and how important it is, and again, you got daughter going to college. Just any positive words, because it's harder and harder to be a dad nowadays, especially.
Dude, it is, man. I mean, I've raised my daughter. I've had her with me since the day she was born, man.
That's awesome.
I've got 5 kids altogether.
Oh, wow.
2 daughters. It's and in today's day and age, it's really hard, man. And I was a single dad for a while, man. I've got full custody of my kids.
Wow.
My wife actually came along as I was being discharged out of the military. She had never been in the military, she didn't know what PTSD was. I mean, I have to give my wife tons of credit, man, because if it wasn't for her, I would not be in the space I'm in today. I can promise you that. I mean, when I was medically discharged, dude, I was on 28 different types of medication.
Jesus.
I mean, yeah, man, the GI cocktail, as Boone Cutler likes to call it.
Yeah.
Me and Boone Cutler go long ways back.
Boone's good dude. Not
he
that
is,
I've
man.
got.
He's a great guy.
We got to get him on. He's been mentioned a lot, and I just never.
Yeah. You need to speak to him, man. He does good things for veterans. Me and him are like brothers, man. I've been to his house. I've slept on his couch. He slept on mine.
I've never gotten high with him, as far as you guys know. Never have.
No, me either. Absolutely not. But and she was a retired nurse, so she knew about all these medicines, man, and she got me to a point where I was a zombie at one point, man, and she got me to the point where I could actually get up and function again. So I got to give my wife a lot of credit for where I am today. She took on my kids because my wife at the time, she split and basically left the kids with me. And so, I was a single dad. She came into my life and just, she grabbed the bull by the horns, as they say, and she's been by my side ever since. And, so a lot of the credit of what I do goes to her because she puts up with a lot of my shit, man.
No, but that's honestly, I'm more impressed with the single dad with 5 kids. That's unreal, dude. That's some badass shit. Not that I'm not impressed with what you do. Obviously, I am. That's why I cuss out people for you. But at least, but that is because that is something that is hard to do. Because without my wife, I got 3 kids. I don't know how I do it. I have a hard enough time being around with my 9-year-old son for an hour by myself. That kid, can't even imagine being so. And that's a tribute to you and your perseverance and just being a good father. So yeah,
I
outstanding.
appreciate
man.
it, brother.
Of course.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks so much, man. So for the audience, guardianofvalor.com, at Stolen Valor 1 on X. And then for Dave, of course, you guys know the Team House podcast, everywhere podcasts are available. This has been really cool. And I had to bring Dave on because I know that you guys have such a connection with what you do.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we did this. This was a cool little like round table.
I'm just like, I'm Anthony's biggest fan, man. I just, the work he does, like I said, I just ride on his coattails and go around and flame dudes whenever he points. I don't even like, and Anthony's word is good enough for me, because I know he does the work. Again, I don't care if they're left or right. I don't care, I don't care about anything. If Anthony says they're lying, then they're lying.
Yeah, I'm saying
I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dave. Actually, Dave is the one that I asked. Dad, like, this guy legit? Like, yeah, he's legit. All right, good enough for me. So, and you are.
The only thing I want, man, is we all need to get together one day for a beer. That's all I request.
We'll get some vodka too, because I may have some somewhere.
Yes, definitely.
Where do you live at, Anthony? I assume it's in the South because I recognize the accent.
South Carolina. Is
Okay.
that my accent, man?
Yeah. If I
We're
ever do
Columbia,
end up
man.
moving
Columbia,
to
South
Florida,
Carolina.
I'll drive through there. So
we'll get together. You on the coast or you in the mountains? You in Greenville or you down in Myrtle Beach?
No, I'm closer to Myrtle Beach. I'm in Columbia.
So you're in the city. Oh yeah.
I figured he was closer to like Jeremy Mitchell. You guys have the same accent as Jeremy, right?
Alabama, come on, Alabama, South Carolina. Alabama's way more twangy. I mean, come on.
They sound similar. They sound similar.
I agree.
We'll get Jeremy. We gotta get Jeremy on because Jeremy was a Gitmo freaking guard for years, and then we'll do it. We'll put it side by side. So we'll do a side by side.
Yeah, we do have to get Jeremy on at some point. This just happens every month. We get so many. It's a good problem to have.
But it's an honor to finally have you on and finally put a face with the name. I never. That's what the hell. Somebody called you the N-word. I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, man, in my inbox, dude. They sent me an email and called me the N-word because I called him out for not being a sergeant major, and I'm like,
so what did ethnicity have to do with
a Democrat then called you the N-word? The world makes no sense.
It makes no sense. It does. And I was like, I thought, because then somebody did say, it wasn't me either. Somebody said, I thought you were white. I'm like, okay, I don't know. Maybe he's mulatto. I don't know what the fuck's going on here. But, all right. I forgot about that. I wanted to ask him about that. Like, he called you a nincompoop, or is that what they, I don't, was that?
Yeah, no, they called me the N-word with the hard R. So, yeah.
I think that
it'd been better if they'd called me Navy.
That's right. Oh, damn it. Let's back up. Can we do that joke again? That's what I should have used right there.
I think one of the effects we see from your work, Anthony, is people's like diehard inability to just accept fact.
Yes.
And we saw it with Slayton, we saw it with Neil, we see it with Waltz. It doesn't matter if they're left or right. People they are willfully blindfold to just the truth.
Yes.
And we see it from veterans, with veterans on the left and the right, but a lot of veterans on the right come out, like a lot of people came out when you were talking about Slayton and we're like, oh, you liberal, you blah, you this. It's like, why is it got to be liberal to tell the truth? Why is it got to be conservative to tell the truth? He's just telling the truth.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. Straight down the middle, man. That's the way I got to keep it.
Well, you'll still have 2 bat boys fucking bullying people and shaming people. I got no problem doing that anymore.
Me too. I enjoy it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm back,
Hell
man.
yeah, man.
I'm back on
Hey.
Twitter being mean to everybody. I love it. So keep doing what you're doing, man. You're doing great, bro.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. And I'm sure we'll see you soon.
We will.
Thanks, man.
We'll have a drink together one of these days.
Hell yeah, brother.
That's all for this episode of Battleline Podcast. But we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.